Welcome to the Cartoon Club. My name is Jack. Someone commented in my last video, a Naya Beck, to continue adding more steps to the last video that I've done. So what I'm going to do in this one is add in musculature to the frame of the body that I drew last time. So thank you, Naya, for sending that comment. If anyone else has any other comments, please drop them down below, and please like and subscribe to my channel. So I won't go into too much detail on the names of the muscles because that can be found online. So if we just go into it step by step like we did last time, we'll focus towards the top and then work our way down. And we have a side view here just to show the side view of the same body. And because it's going to be muscles, I'll be creating somewhat of a superhero kind of physique. So quite large muscles just to amplify and exaggerate what each muscle group's going to be. So the first step is going to be the top part of the body, so that's going to be the neck and the shoulders. So what I'll be drawing in is two lines going diagonally towards the middle from the outside of the head, and these two muscles help to move the head around. And then what we're going to be doing is adding in another two lines going almost vertical but slightly outwards. So that'll be the thickness of the neck itself, and we're continuing that down to this line that we created last time. And then what we're going to be doing is adding in a curve for where the shoulders are going to be. So we're going to add in a curve about halfway between the center and that outer point. So this line's going to start about there, and then we're going to curve it around following the joint but just exaggerating the distance. And that will go down around about the same height as the nipple, just slightly lower. And then we'll just do the same on the other side, so finding the point about halfway and then curving that around. And then the back of the neck is going to be connected to the arms by a larger mass of muscle. So with that, we're just going to start with the point of the joint and imagine that there's a curve going around to the other joint on the other side, and it's going just about where the chin lands. So it's a curve around, sort of scraping to that chin and then back to the other side of that joint. And as you can see, adding those lines in there sort of pushes the neck forward, and it pushes the shoulders forward as well, creates that bit of definition and depth to the character. And then we're just going to do the same on this side. So the neck is going to head downwards diagonally with a body that's superhero based. The chin's going to be more defined, so what we'll do is we'll roughly add in a chin to project that head forward more. And we're going to follow the same curve around the joint that we did with our shoulders. So the curve is going to be an exaggerated form of that ball joint, and it's going to come together towards that central line of the arm. So it's curving on the top, but it's also tapering towards, it's sort of coming together like a guitar pick. And with the back of the shoulders, we'll start with just adding the top part, but it's going to be an exaggerated form of the rib cage that we've created. And then there's a slight bit of mass connecting the back to the front. Now on to the next step, which is going to be the front part of the torso. So this will be where the pecs are going to be found, the large bits of muscle at the front. So there's a line going in the center. This just separates the two halves apart. And then what we'll be doing is curving this line around. And with this guideline that we set on the frame of the body, the pec's going to fall into that guideline there. And then you just mirror the same thing on the other side. And then with the top part of the pec, it will be heading down towards the middle. So follow that guideline for a bit and then carry down. But now we're adding in those pecs, we're making them bigger than they naturally are. So with the nipples, we'll just move them off to the edge. So still in the same sort of position, just moving them diagonally towards the point where the rib cage is. That'll be our new placement of those. And the pecs usually connect into the shoulders, but because there's such big mass, the curve's sort of hidden behind. So the bigger the mass of the pec, the more this bit becomes pronounced. Usually it would taper upwards, but if we've got a larger pec, then it will almost hang down. And then to do the pec on this side, so we've got that placement for the nipple, so the pec will stand out quite a lot. It'll be almost round. Then we just move that nipple forwards, projecting that out. And then this will be where you can see the angle of the pec, so you can see that that pec is now tucking up towards the shoulder. And what we're going to do before we move on to the rest of the torso, we're going to move on to the arms because they're going to be projected forward. And I've erased these lines for a reason, because the more muscle that's added to an arm, the more it can straighten out. So the arm will almost go more outwards, more of a diagonal shape than intended. We're now going to create a line for the top part of that arm. So we're going to start around where the nipple mark is and then create a curved line hooking up. So technically all this bit here should be one muscle, but the only thing we focus on is this bottom part. So it's like a U shape with an extra part to the inside. So this is where the mass of that bicep's going to go, the front of the arm. And I'll just do the same on the other side. And then what we're going to do is add in the back part of the arm. So it's going to be a bump that's higher up than this one. So this will be the back placement of the arm. And it'll be a line that starts from above the nipple mark and below the joint mark of the arm, and then curve round and end higher up than the bottom of this U shape that we've just drawn. So this is the back of the arm. This allows it to straighten up as well. And this part will also contain the elbow of the character. So it's just another bump similar to the bump that we've done. And with the rest of the shoulder, we're just going to curve a line around. So it just defines where the main mass of that shoulder is. And as you can see now that that muscle, the front of the arm, is now tucked underneath this shoulder. And then onto this side, we'll do the same thing. So we're adding in the large mass to the front of the arm. So make sure it's good and prominent. But because it's on a side view, we'll just be creating a slight U shape. So as you can see, it's almost a C from this angle. Just this top part of the C is missing, but quite an exaggerated curve. And then with the back part of the arm, it's the same thing again. So a bump that's higher up. We'll follow this line that we've set for the back of the character as a good guideline. And then out of this, we'll stem the elbow. And now onto the forearm. This is the next part. So with that, it's just a line curving around and ending closer to the guideline that we set for the frame of the model. So it's almost heading diagonally downwards away from the character. So it's going to start towards the base of the top of the arm, curve around, quite an exaggerated curve, and then end just at the end of that wrist there. And then with the outside of the arm, it's going to start higher up. So it's going to cover up that elbow and come towards that wrist again. So that one's quite a straight outside, but this is the curved inside that we're expecting. And with that as well, we'll just add in a line here, a curved line just going around to show that this top part of the arm is intersecting with the bottom part. And I'll just do that on the other side. And now for the forearm on this one. So the elbow is going to be towards the center now instead of far back. So the arm is going to be less curved on one side and more curved on both sides. So we're going to add in that curve that we did for the first arm. Curve that around. We're also going to create somewhat of a curve on this side as well. And the elbow inside here should hook around this point. Now onto the torso. So this will be where the six-pack is. And what we do is we follow the rib cage, but we just exaggerate the curves that are around it. So with the rib cage, we're going to just head outwards from that and just create two lines either side. So this will help us at the moment just to set our guidelines. And then it will taper inwards, almost like a corset on a woman. And then for later on, when it comes to adding in the details lower down, it will then head back out again. But if we create the lines going down a little bit further. And then this central line is quite important to help us find out where the six-pack is going to go. So we'll just extend that one down. And the belly button is right at the top of that pelvis. So what we have to do is split this into 8 sections. So we need to create 2 diagonal lines here, following the bottom of those pecs, but straighter this time. And we need 2 lines either side of the central line, so we're just going to add 2 lines in, but make them go diagonally downwards towards the center. So imagine there's like a central point there that these lines are heading towards. And there's going to be 3 sections up here, and the larger section is just going to be separate. So what we're going to do is we're going to erase the inside there of that rib cage, just so we can better understand what we're adding in. And the 3 points here are going to go across. So the center one is going to be straight across, and then the next one up is going to be slightly angled higher, diagonally I mean. And then the next one along is going to be even more slanted. And then you've got the very exaggerated diagonal there. And so there is your 8 sections to each muscle. So that helps the body bend forward and contract. And there's muscles on the side here of the rib cage. So if I just remove these lines, they're like overlapping segments, and that helps to move the body side to side. So what we're going to do is add in some curved lines down here, 3 curved lines each. It's the same lines you would add if you're creating a sort of skeletal figure, like a very thin figure. But the difference here is that these lines are the actual muscles, they're not the rib cages. And then we're going to add 3 more curves the same, but heading towards the bottom instead. So we start that first one on the edge of that rib cage mark we drew, and then just follow the same on the next 3 down. And then we'll just slightly curve the top of this, just to show that there's a bit of muscle mass above here. This is the diaphragm part. This is where you inhale and exhale, so there's quite a sturdy bit of muscle there. And further down on that torso, we've got the outside, but then if we just curve it slightly and then bring it towards the center, the more exaggerated the waistline, the more exaggerated this curve will be. And onto this side, the diaphragm part, so this top part of the mass here, is going to be the most projected out part. So it's just going to be another curve, and then most of this mass is actually going to head diagonally inwards. But it will be separated into those 3 segments again. And then one more longer segment down towards the bottom. So there's your 8 segments for your muscles, your 8-pack. And then on the back, we created that top part of the muscle, but then there'll be another part that bumps out and then curves around. This will then join towards the bum of the character, and the back is usually quite a solid bit of muscle, so there's not too much detail when it comes to adding the back. Now for the waist, we're going to add in the bum, which is following this guideline that we set. So we're just going to amplify those lines, and for modesty's sake we're going to cover the genitals section with some sort of pant. And then with the top part of the legs, they're usually split into 3 bits of muscle. So if we continue outwards past this joint, this is usually where the biggest part of the mass is for the character, besides the arms, because that'll be holding most of the weight of the body. So the legs will be quite large and bulbous. So one big curve heading out, and then back towards that central joint, and the same on the other side as well. And then the bottom part of the genitals will be split into 2, and these 2 lines are usually together. The bigger the leg, the more that gap's going to disappear, so we'll create a smaller gap. And they sort of curve. Imagine there's a curve going round to the hands. That's where those 2 lines are going to be heading, but they're going to be overlapped with another section of muscle, and that's for the inside part of the leg. So we're adding those lines there, just curving around, similar to this outside one. If you can see, the image of these 2 legs mirrors the arm, but just flipped upside down. So this big curve here is similar to this curve here, because it's the same sort of motion that the forearm and the leg needs to do. And with the leg here, it's going to curve upwards like we did our bicep, and the same on that side. We're going to curve up, back on itself, and this outside part is going to do the same. Just going to curve up slightly, but they won't interact. And for the side view, the bum's going to be quite a large mass, because the muscles usually get bigger when it comes to exercising along the back of the body. So it's just more exaggerated form of the hip joint that we created. And then the leg is going to extend outward past the hand, adding the mark for the pants as well. So the leg is going to extend outwards and curve slightly inwards. And then the back of the leg is going to start high and then work down, and then join up closer to that joint. And you can see that the bum is now covered by this joint as well. And then we'll just create a slight curve higher up, which just defines the side of the leg. And now onto the knee joint. So the knee joint is just going to be a simple exaggeration of the joint we created earlier. So this part here will connect through this part of the leg as well, so there's almost like a connection made there. And then the leg at this bottom part, imagine that there's a strand heading down towards the ankle. So we'll create a line going downwards that sort of joins up to that ankle. And then the leg is separated into 2 sections at that point. So this side of the leg is going to be the larger mass, so it's going to head out more and follow straight down. Slight curve, but mainly top heavy. And the same with this one, but this one will disappear behind this line that we've just created. So quite exaggerated outwards, but then disappearing behind that leg. And then we're going to add in the joints. So the main part of the ankle is going to be separated into two again. The outside is always going to be higher. So just add in that higher joint for the outside, lower joint for the inside. And then the feet, we're just going to continue the same as what we've drawn. But we're just clarifying where that foot's going to go. Nothing too important there. And on this side of the leg, we're going to be adding in that joint again. So the knee joint's going to be placed in, hooking around, sort of similar to the hook that we created higher up. And then the front of the leg's only going to be the visible part. So this part will extend out from the knee and curve back. And then from the back of the leg, this part here is separated by a straight line. But there's going to be a large mass towards the back of the leg joint, but still curving back around and reaching that ankle again. And we'll add in our joint as just a curved version of the joint that we've already got there, and then we'll just clean up that foot again. So this final step is just going over some little tips and tricks on how to remember where to put the muscles. So we're going to start towards the top. So remember that the neck goes straight down and the chin is going to be the point where the back muscles are going to head towards. So imagine that your muscle is going round. And this is behind the chin of the character. So the larger that muscle at the back, the stronger the shoulders of the character is going to be. And then the pecs are going to follow that sternum, so follow the line that we created in our guidelines. But remember that that bottom part, the more exaggerated the muscle, the more it will curve around. The thinner the muscle, the more it will taper inwards. So that is strong, and that is weak. So the curve around is going to be quite strong, with this curve is going to go up towards the shoulder more. And with the 8-pack as well, imagine that we've got our central line. The top line is going to be the most exaggerated and diagonal, and then they're going to get straighter the closer you get towards the center of the pecs, and then you've got the longer one at the bottom. So the more diagonal at the top and the more straight in the center. And then the forearms and the legs follow the same thing, that the inside part is going to be a curve that's quite exaggerated, and the outside is going to be more of a straight curve. So as you can see, quite a big curve for that inside part, but quite straight there. So that matches that top part, but if you flip it upside down, it's the same for this part as well. So narrow, then wider, and still straight. So those two match each other. And then with the leg, the inside of the leg's going to be higher than the outside. Same as what we did with the forearm, but at least with this side, there's going to be something in the way. So only a slight bump at that top for the inside of the leg, but quite a large curve for the outside. And then for the side of the body, the pec's going to be the largest front of the body. It's going to be the thing that projects most. And then the muscle below it, the diaphragm, is going to hook under that, and then that's where your pecs are going to go. And the back of the body is going to balance that out as well. So a large front also means a larger back, but at least with the back's quite an easy curve downwards. The larger the bum as well, with a larger muscle mass. And then with the legs are going to head outwards, fairly straight curve, but the back side is going to start with a higher bump. So the curve begins lower down there but higher up here, and the muscle on the bottom of the leg is fairly straight on the front but quite high and extended on the back. And usually that's the thinner part of the body, so it looks almost top heavy, but most of the mass comes into the thigh, and most of the stability comes with the feet and the bottom part of the leg. So it doesn't necessarily have to be thin, but that is usually the thinnest part. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over everything with a darker pencil just to outline all the details that we've added, and I'm just going to erase some of the lines on the inside, like our guidelines, just to clarify what bit's muscle and what bit's structure. So I'm just going to do that quickly, but before I go, if you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, if you can click the bell icon to stay informed of any future videos, and if you've got any other suggestions like Naya, please drop them down in the comments below. So yeah, I hope you have a nice day. I'll see you around. Thank you very much.